Okay. We got Feel Flows by the Charlatans on the YouTubes, and we got Jason Leenaarts with his terrible, terrible background that we wish we would blur out. I wonder if there's a way I can blur out his background. I don't know. I'll forgive it this time. Jason is joining us from Ohio. Is it SWAT, Ohio? Stowe. I got the dyslexia going today. Stowe. I never heard of Stowe. How far is that to some of those major Ohio
So we're
institutions?
basically in between Akron and Cleveland, so still considered Northeast Ohio, give or take.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jason just had me on his podcast, so I thought I would return the favor, and we'll turn that off. That was pretty aggressive. I like that song. I'm gonna have to put that in my mix. Seems like a good workout song. Is that how you kind of use it?
Man, that's a song I've been listening to for, I gotta think, close to 30 years,
Wow.
which is, man, I feel old. But when I had my band together, that was actually a song that was one of our entrance songs because it's instrumental and it's got a good groove to it. So yeah, I'm just kind of throwing back way back.
I like it. And what'd you do in the band? What was your role?
I sang and played guitar.
Nice.
Yeah.
We gotta get some of those clips and mix that in to the edited version of this. But yeah, Jason owns. Is it a fitness studio?
Yeah.
And so it's Rev Fit. I want to get everything right. And then you have the podcast Revolutionary You, which is phenomenal, and that's where I was a guest. And the format there is over 4 weeks. We 4-part series. So I appreciate the commitment to that, and I guess you only take guests who are also pretty committed and can do that. And he's had some great guests on, and I'm honored to be on that list. You're coming up on close to 400 episodes. Is that about right?
Yeah, where are we? I think we're in the mid 300s. So yeah, 353, 354, somewhere around there. So yeah,
very impressive.
About 6 years of content, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then you also have a book by the same name, A Revolution a Day.
Revolution a Day is the most recent one. Came out in 2019, right? Oddly enough, right? But so I put out essentially the fitness version's daily meditation right before COVID hit, which is bizarre. And then I have another book that I wrote back in, I think, 2016. They're both on Amazon, physical and Kindle. So
yeah, I'm gonna have to get those after. Usually, I like to get this done beforehand, but we have our history now for 4 calls and 4 episodes at least on your show. So this is number 5, and we had a pre-call too. So before all that, so this is our 6th call together.
That's right.
So leading into all that, what's going on, and what I guess checking in as we did our call. You mentioned you had some back stuff going on, and we did a little virtual assessment. So how's that going? What's been your takeaway from that work?
Yeah, so for those that don't know, and hopefully this kind of leads people back to my show so they can hear the episodes that we did together. But we talked about your capacity as a physical therapist, the things that you're able to do virtually. You have a really cool service that you offer that you do through True Coach, where you have essentially a screening that you're able to do, and by myself and with the help of one of my coaches, I was actually able to submit several videos to you so that you could take a look and just see how my body was moving. And I do have a couple of nagging injuries that have bothered me for a while, and they certainly keep me from doing all the things that I want to do. But it's like a lot of things in life, you just can't do it all. So it's trying to come to an understanding about this is what you can do and this is what you can't. The good news is I'm feeling better, but it's just slow. It's slow, and it's just trying to remind myself that I generally know the things that are going to aggravate it. So reminding myself that I've got to just watch the way that I move throughout the course of a day, because in owning a personal training facility, there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of weird rotation that happens with moving 45-pound plates around multiple times a day. So yeah, it's just, it's one of those things. It's the nature of the beast, but no, thank you. I'm feeling better. So
awesome to hear. And then we'll tie it into your books and the daily kind of meditations like you're talking about. And our first theme here is making the best of the time you have. So I'd love for you to go in on that, and got the little ticker down below.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I guess the best way to say it is I've been asked a lot about my productivity because I
Mm,
feel like I get a fair amount done. And I don't want to just give out the super annoying thing that we all have the same 24 hours. I mean, we do, but we kind of don't.
hmm.
But I do have to be really mindful of what time I wake up in the morning, which is 3:45 in the morning most days of the
Woo!
week.
Is that
And
a thing? I didn't even know that was a
yeah,
thing.
it's a thing. It's a thing.
I
And I
I
can
thought
get into the nuance of that in a moment. But yeah, 3:45 a.m., 6 out of 7 days of the week. I actually give myself a little grace on Sundays to sleep in. And and then but I mean I'm lights out by about 8:30 at night. So at that point I'm pretty much drooling on myself. So it's
yeah.
about, how much can I get done in the
Hmm.
span of my waking hours? And it doesn't make me better than anybody else. It's just I have to know what things I can say yes to and what things I can say no to. And, maybe that's the best way to start that conversation.
Yeah, yeah. That's something. So I guess is it just the discipline? Is it what's the background of that? Why you just feel like that's what the thing that drives you to your purpose? Is that the kind of, again, I know I do feel like some of these are very cliche things, but at the same time, they are cliches for a reason, right? Because it's the constant battles that we all have. So is it just a matter of discipline and making those decisions that again are most powerful to you?
Yeah, it's, Bo, you own a business and you know that it can be easy to get lost in the trap of saying yes to everything because you want
Hmm.
every available opportunity. You don't want to miss out on or have the fear of missing out, as the acronym goes. But
FOMO.
yeah, but you want to take every opportunity that you can, but at a certain point, you're going to spread yourself so thin that the quality of what
Yeah.
you do starts to go down the tubes. And so I'm fortunate that I'm at a point in my career where I have a staff of coaches who can help me here at the studio. The studio is also getting busier, pretty much all the time. Every year that we've been in business, and we're about to celebrate our 13th year, every year gets better, which means more clientele, more demand on our time, and all that stuff. And it's a wonderful problem to have. But part of it just comes from an obligation to the clients that
Hmm.
we start training at 5:30 in the morning. I live about 20 minutes away from work, so waking up 3:45 gives me enough time to like get my mind right, get about 2 cups of coffee in me, make the drive to work and all that stuff, and be ready, like essentially bright-eyed and bushy-tailed by the time clients come in and want to start to rock and roll. And we have our day split up into 2 training blocks, so we train from 5:30 in the morning until 10, and then
Hmm.
we shut down operations for a handful of hours so that I can spend time with folks like yourself, work with my online clients and all that stuff, do consultations, run all the other errands I need to for the business. Plus, I got to do things like get lunch and get my own training in and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then we have an afternoon block where we train from 2:30 till about 5:30, and then it's time to start kind of turning the lights out and getting home so I can spend a little bit of time with my family. So the day becomes very compact, and it's not that I don't have time to waste. I just try not to waste a lot of time because it's a lot of irons in the fire. So
Sounds like it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And how long have you been doing that for?
I would say keeping that particular schedule probably 6 or 7 years.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
And then is that also a conscious decision of, less Netflix, less things like that, less time out? Again, obviously if you're in bed by 8:30,
I'm not much
drooling
of a
like you
party
said.
animal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's that's part of it is, it's not that I don't enjoy, a streaming show or a movie, but we typically, like my wife and I will do that stuff on the weekends. My wife is in musical theater, so right now she's directing and choreographing a production, which means that we're essentially just thieves crossing in the night. I'm working throughout the day, she's working
yeah.
in the evening, and then we have our son, who we also need to make sure that he's taken care of. And so the weekends is when we tend to catch up and have that time to relax. And if we want to watch a show, we can do that. So I know that by and large, if a new show comes out and everybody's raving about it, I'm probably not going to be the early adopter, but I'll still get a
Right.
chance to see it. So
Right. Right.
yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that takes us to the next kind of topic of pivoting from perfectionism, and I think that's something a lot of folks are challenged with, and there's the paralysis by analysis, and failure to launch or waiting to launch until everything's lined up perfectly, and how much, God forbid, understanding how much that costs us in the long term of waiting for everything to be perfect versus going at 80% when you feel like things are there. So why did you bring that one up as something you're passionate about, or a kind of a main tenet? Again, with these themes, you said that these were things that kind of come up as you're on other shows and things like that, and people put you on the spot. So I'd love to hear how that all connects.
Sure. I mean, this is one of those things that I think it not only affects coaches, but it affects our clients as well. You think about what our clients go through in terms of, say, dietary adherence, not being able to get to their goals, and it's because it's things aren't perfect. The diet isn't perfect. They had an unplanned lunch, and everything went to hell in a handbasket at lunch. So then they throw away the next 3 days of eating because they're like, well, there goes my planned lunch that I was supposed to have, and it all went to pot. And I think about it as a business owner. There's so many decisions that I've had to make that I have to make, almost instantly. And that means that not every choice that you make is going to be the right one. It means that sometimes you have to pull the trigger on certain decisions, and you have to change them when you realize that they're either not as effective as you need them to be, or they just aren't quite right at the time. And if I were to allow perfectionism to be what is my guiding light, I would never get anything done. But it also kind of goes back to some of the things that we coach our clients, which is just generally speaking, again, we're going to kind of come back to some of these cliches, but something's better than nothing. So if you're going to market your services, get some kind of marketing out as opposed to no marketing. If you're going to do something appropriate with your diet, do one good thing today instead of making the whole day 100% perfect down to the gram and every macro that you want to, overanalyze, because generally speaking, you're just trying to get some of those fundamentals in place, and
Hmm.
there's really no place in your life that this doesn't actually have a direct effect to. So, as I like to say, there's no perfect parent, there's no perfect business, there's no perfect training plan. It's just the one that you're actually putting the time and effort into. So,
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal. And so you brought up daily meditations, and was that? I know you kind of jokingly said that about your book, but just trying to tie this theme back to that is it kind of connected to kind of stoicism? Is that something that you're following? Because as you're talking, there is some feel of that going on, whether it's influenced by, or I'd love to know if that's something you've followed, and especially as it's a very popular concept these days.
yeah, kind of going back to the book for a second, it was one of those things where after I wrote my first book, and there were some very particular constraints about writing my first book where I felt like probably was not my best foot forward, but it's out there and I'm not going to take it back. I'm not going to, keep it
Hmm.
from selling if people want to buy it. Um, but it's one of those things where when I had the opportunity to write a second book, I wanted to do it totally differently. And as you know, from hosting a podcast, there's a lot of information that you take from guests that it's like, I know that not everybody is going to absorb information from a podcast. It's not their media of choice, but I didn't want them to lose out on the information that my guests were sharing. So I thought, what is a way that I can pull that information together into a book to where it not only markets the services and information of the guests that I've had, but also, I get to maybe put some of my 2 cents into it as well. And around that time, Ryan Holiday had put out the Daily Stoic, and I liked the fact that he was taking very old wisdom that still was applicable to today. He was giving a very modern spin to it, and then that was the your daily motivation, the way that people think of spiritual motivation, or that kind of thing that they do for that practice. And I thought, well, there's a way to do this with fitness. And so that was really the intent of the book, was to give people sort of a daily guide that is about more the evidence-based things that we know about health and nutrition and the way that we train and the way that we think, that I felt like the average fitness enthusiast would probably appreciate. And it doesn't mean that every single page will apply, but there were certain concepts that I wanted to make sure I kept bringing up throughout the book, because maybe in January you can't really focus on your protein. You could focus on your exercise, but maybe by March, if you hear about protein again, you could start to make it more of an emphasis. So that was really the motivation behind doing that particular book, because I just wanted something for those of us out there that that's something that's important to us in our lives and something we value.
Yeah, for sure. I love that message. And I just was, as you were talking, trying to find them both, and your name and either the name of the book, on Amazon. So are they not on Amazon? Because I couldn't find them.
They are both on Amazon, so as long as you can spell the name, you should be able to find them.
It's the two A's, I think.
It's
Maybe
the
I
two
missed the
A's.
two
It's the
A's.
Dutch
But
curse.
I just tried a revolution a day, and that didn't come up. And then I tried the names of the books. That didn't come. But anyway, we'll put links, I'm sure, in the show notes,
Awesome.
and possibly not, because I tend to be terrible at that. But if not, if anyone's looking for that, we'll find it. And I'm gonna order both as we finish up here. So,
Thanks.
but yeah, no, pivoting from perfectionism, and that kind of ties into my, and it is the other part of my daily mantra of get 1% better every day, is just, yeah, are we moving in the right direction when it comes to fitness? As you said, can we be moving, if and doing something is better than doing nothing. And if we do kind of say like, oh, I can't run a marathon because like I need to go out and I'm not ready to run 26 miles. Or one of my favorite that this connects to for me is for people who want to come do CrossFit, and we have that conversation. They say, I'm gonna get fit first and then I'll do CrossFit.
Right.
Because I don't, they're intimidated by going into the class setting or seeing the people on ESPN doing, looking very bulky and all these things. And they say, I'm not ready for that. And so, well, that's how you eventually get there. Like, you got to start somewhere. So
Right.
yeah, I love that concept. So yeah, moving into our third kind of topic is considering therapy. And I just let you riff on that. And we talked a little bit before we went on, and feel free to flow off of that.
Yeah. This is one of those things that I went through just a bunch of stuff, a lot of drama when I was in college, and needed to go into therapy because I didn't know how to, deal with the things that I was struggling with. And parts of it worked, parts of it didn't. There was the whole medication side of things that I felt at the time I needed, and it was not as beneficial for me as it is for other people. But the point being that it is, very much beneficial for some people. But it was one of those things that once I got out of therapy, I thought, well, I really don't need this anymore. I think I've gotten all the benefit that I needed from it. And as the things in my life started to get more involved, and as things with this business became more demanding of my time and my mental space, there were just certain things that I was starting to see kind of fall through the cracks. And one thing in particular that I felt was really sort of spearheading a way back into therapy was losing my father and feeling like I really just hadn't grieved his loss uh, in the most effective way possible. And not that there's, again, going back to our previous topic, there's no perfect way to grieve, but there's certainly ways to shut your feelings off and suffer consequences of that. And so, it was affecting the way that I did my job. It was affecting the way that my wife and I interacted with one another. And so I got back into it. And it was really helpful for me because I happened to find somebody that, while he was not the mirror of my father, there were
Mm,
certain things that I found uh, many similarities to. And I thought, okay, well, if my dad can't be around, I can at least have that sort of paternal voice in my ear
mm.
to be essentially something of a guiding light. And it was helpful because often it was just me sort of vomiting all of these things going
Yeah.
on in my life at that point. And he would just, listen very carefully. He would interject just a couple of questions. And normally I would leave that session with like one or two questions that I had to kind of think and sit on, that it's like, okay, that was worth every single penny that I just spent on that session.
Right.
And so the reason why I like to bring it up is because I think that, if you follow a certain belief system, it says that, boys don't cry, men
Mm,
should be able to hide their feelings, or at least just, you know, uh, keep a stone faced. You don't have to show it, that kind of thing. And I didn't grow up with a father that was like that. My father was pretty attuned to his emotions and never made me feel like I couldn't show those things. But it's one of those things where it's like, I wish that the stigma was gone, because I think that if more people accepted that it's okay to have a sounding board that's not your best friend, it's not your spouse, it's not your children, it's not your coworker, you'd get a lot further in life. And that could be
yeah.
things as simple as how you handle your own problems, to the expectations of what you think exercise and diet should do for you, and all that kind of stuff. So I would love to hear that more people are in therapy. And I still think there's unfortunately too much negative stigma around it, but hopefully that's changing as time changes.
For sure, yeah. Obviously, it's something I've talked about a bunch through my episodes. My wife's a sex and relationship therapist, so and it's something we, of course, connected on a long, long time ago. As we wish that more people would come see us for physical issues, for mental health issues. Um, be, you know, we can do so much more powerful work when somebody is not in crisis. Obviously, there's very powerful stuff we can do as well when somebody is having an injury or in some kind of mental health crisis. But yeah, it's just so much easier to prevent these things, but it's harder to, again, do the work and find that time to invest in preventative measures. As again, our brains just don't work that way. We're more of a survival individual, right? The lizard brain. So, and same thing as we both are in kind of the fitness space. It's great when folks start investing in their physical space, their future, which is my big kind of push recently of saying let's talk about your physical retirement plan, which is a term that is not in the nomenclature of society. And just like we both want mental health to be more of a mainstay. And I appreciate that on your logos, right, on your book, which I did find. I did add the extra A that did come up. But of your logo, the first one is kind of the mental photo, and then the middle one is the fork and knife, and then the third one being the dumbbell. And so again, we're talking mind, body, and the kind of the nutritional piece that what we're putting into our body, the inputs and the outputs. And that's the way I talk about my 5 pillars of health too. So again, one of the reasons, as soon as we kind of connected, I'm glad we did. And thank you again to Shane McLean for putting us together here. And so, and I have to remind myself, we're doing a partial range of motion article. Gotta do a video for that soon. So.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh, you were on that too? Oh.
No, but I know that he likes to routinely, network with other coaches for the stuff that he puts out. So I really like that about Shane.
Yeah. And again, he's for anyone who hasn't checked his workout, he's all over the internet with articles and things like that. So very good dude. That is always a good human to support.
That's right.
And I tried to get him on my podcast too, and I know he's been on a few, and that was he's had a lot of busy stuff going on recently. So Shane, if you're listening, we're gonna get you on here soon. But yeah, so putting all the pieces together there, that mindset is so huge. I'd be curious how you integrate that into a personal training studio fitness space when you're working with clients. How is there a formalized approach for that? Is it just you notice, hey, Jason, you don't look so good today. What's going on? Is it that simple of a human connection? I'd love to hear if you guys have some kind of structure around that, or is it just something that kind of happens and you're just very well aware of?
Well, I would probably say it's more the latter than the former. I mean, there's certainly no specific processes for it. It's one of those things where I think if you, as a coach, if you do your consultations right, you can start to kind of flesh some of those things out. If you're having effective consultations, you can figure out what the mind space is of the person who's starting, and you can look at things that willingness and readiness to change and things like that, and also just look at just what specific verbiage they might use. If you can get somebody open enough during consultations, you can find out that, yes, there might be things that are, say, wrong with the nutrition. Well, why are they wrong with the nutrition? What are you stressed out about? And that's a specific question that I ask. I'll ask potential clients, on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being not noticeable and 10 being intolerable. Can you tell me where stress is in your life? And if I have somebody that, gives me a fairly high number, I'll ask, hey, do you mind elaborating on that? I'd like to hear more. And so you might hear that perhaps the marriage is not in a good place, or perhaps there's things that are going on with the children that are difficult for a parent to deal with or whatnot. And then that becomes what is informing the food choices. And so it was interesting because when those icons that you're referencing that we use for part of our branding, and then that's actually is part of the books, and it's actually on the podcast thumbnail. My graphic designer, shout out to Nate Mannon, he actually did that of his own accord. It wasn't anything where I told him to do it. But what was interesting was the order, the sequencing of those icons. He put essentially the mindset first, nutrition second, training third. And if you were to look at a hierarchy, I would say that's a pretty damn good hierarchy in terms of importance, but it doesn't mean that that's necessarily what you're going to tackle first. Sometimes you might have to start training before it changes changes you on a neurological level. And sometimes you got to focus on food before you can think about anything else. So that all depends on the person, but I would like to think that we do a pretty good job of tackling all three, and certainly keeping communication and context open about the fact that every person that comes in through these doors is struggling with those things in varying degrees, whether they're hitting 2 of 3 pretty easily and 1 that they're not so great at, or maybe they're all 3, they feel like they're struggling. But I think that I would like to assume that most coaches who care about the results of their clients probably care about these 3 things, and because I just think that fosters better client results, better client relationships.
Yeah, and I'll shout out Brett Bartholomew, is one of the top guys in the industry and of the fitness space, who talks more into these soft skills. As you know, I think I always forget if he embraces that term or he kind of, I know he's brought it up, but I don't know how familiar you are with his work, but Conscious Coaching is his big famous book, and The Art of Coaching is his brand. And so, yeah, definitely something that tends to get missed. And again, with the fitness space in general, unfortunately, it is a lot of 20 somethings that have had success in the gym, and decide to say, hey, I need to make some money. I kind of know something about, building my biceps, so let me help some other people. And whether they have the best of intentions or not is not up to me to decide. But in terms of the skill set, it's a very low barrier to entry for the fitness space. And then these are folks who are, the personal training role is a huge one, where you are affecting this person's psychology, you are affecting this person's biology, their physiology, possibly their heart health, all these factors that, their doctor might have said, hey, you got 30 pounds to lose, so that you're not in a critical, state where you might need to go on medication. And it's a very important role, that I think sometimes, unfortunately, the system is not there. As a quick shout out to a book I read recently, Dan Heath's Upstream, that every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets. So, we do seem to have a fitness forward space where folks are definitely willing to try to go to a gym, but there's, I think, a lot of gaps where folks are motivated and motivation does not last. And if the system is not there, again, a system like Jason's, where if you go into his gym right now and you said, hey, I want to get healthier, it seems like there's a process in place to get people to the results that they want. He's sharing testimonials almost every day, in the best possible way of, hey, like, if we have the results, we're going to share them. That's how we're going to get more people the results. And I think you guys listening in here is coming up on 30 minutes. You can probably tell he's a pretty genuine dude. But yeah, that's the thing that I certainly will rant on, and I'm going to stop myself at this point, but of the fitness space having some of those deficits. So I don't know, if there's anything else in the fitness space that you'd want to comment on. Again, obviously you've put your time in to the profession. You've gone above and beyond. You've evolved to, you've created revolutions of your own. And again, that revolution can just be between you and the client in front of you, right? That's kind of I assume, the idea of the book. I just put them in my cart on Amazon, and
appreciate that.
And anything I should think about in reading one or both of those books?
I would say that you knowing, what I know about you, I think that you would probably appreciate the newer one more than the first one. Just because I think that for the first one, for The Revolution Is You, I don't think that it would be anything under the sun new for you. The other one, at least I think that you would appreciate the fact that a lot of the people that are being featured in that book are people that you likely know and look up to and are friends within the industry, people whose opinions you would respect. And I just think that you would probably enjoy the format of the book. And the one thing that I failed to mention on it that I did purposefully was I made it essentially workbook-esque. So you've got the quote from the guest. You've got some of my thoughts on that quote, because many of them I intentionally took out of context that I could tell something of a story. And then I left space for basically some rumination. So if you have thoughts on how you would apply that, that day's wisdom to yourself, that there's room for you to write that stuff in and see how it applies. But I tried to make it as engaging as I could in that respect. So I think that you will probably like that one more.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it for sure. I want to be respectful of your time. I appreciate that you've been up for now 17 hours already. So, and like you said, you got a lot going on. You got a lot to do. Get ready for your second block of the day. So appreciate you being on here. Tell folks where they can find you.
Sure. So
if your theme song, it's pretty aggressive.
It's not too bad. Not too bad. So yeah, if you can spell the name, if you want to read the blog, which is weekly, and you want to find out more about the podcast, also released weekly, you can go to jasonleenaarts.com. Revolutionary You is on, I believe, all podcast platforms of your choice. And you can find me on Instagram. You can friend me on Facebook. Also recently started working with Dr. Spencer Nadolsky through Big Rocks Nutrition. So that's pretty cool stuff. for 2022. And yeah, that's the short and sweet.
And I saw the big rocks. You have a recent blog post about it. Is the assumption there that you take care of the little rocks and build the habits to get those big rocks? The big rocks being the loss of 20 pounds.
I try to take some liberties with the name. It's the big rocks can be something as simple as we got to get you more sleep because we know that
Mm,
sleep can affect eating habits, or
mm,
it could be something as simple as nailing your protein so that it helps you with things like hunger and adherence to your goals and complements what you do with your training, that kind of thing. So yeah, we all collectively, I'll speak for all the coaches since they can't be here on the episode with me. We're always trying to look for the low hanging fruit that not
mm.
everybody needs to track calories. Not everybody needs to count macros. There's a lot of different ways to get to the same end goal. And I'll say also, since we've had a few cliches in this episode, that the ultimate goal is to get people leaving the program with a healthier relationship with food than where they started it. So
Perfect, man. I love it. It goes back to the mindset piece. And yeah, that's awesome. So thank you for being on, Jason. If folks got use out of this, the best way to get this out there is to share with someone you think will benefit from the conversation. Help us grow. Leave a rating, review, comment, all that good stuff. And we'll reach right out to Jason. If you're in the Ohio area, go check him out at RevFit in, I forgot the name of it already.
Stowe, Ohio. Yeah.
Stow away. Stow away. And on that note, we'll leave you guys. Get 1% better today.